What's happening, everybody? It's your man, Damednydc. It's two mics up. And today is a special edition. It's Friday. We going into the weekend. But today's guest is really bringing some really powerful things to the table. You know, from an emotional standpoint, could be a physical standpoint, but a real roller coaster ride, really digging into her background and getting to understand more about her. And I'm proud to say, to be on this side, and it really feels like without really knowing her 100%, she's really risen like a phoenix from the ashes, to be able to do what she's doing today. Almost feels like she's been ordained, if you will, to be able to go ahead and get her message out to help others in our community who are maybe struggling in silence with some of these, depressions, infidelities, narcissism. As we've seen, I'm going to throw it out there like my man Diddy, looking at it, with Cassie and everything that's kind of come to light. So without further ado, I'm going to bring today's guest, and her smile is amazing. So just be prepared to be overwhelmed by this amazing smile. And like through all of these things that I just named, she still has the strength to stand up and smile. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to bring to the stage the chick that conquered, our guest, Qwanetta Richardson. Qwanetta, how are you doing today?
Damon, I am doing absolutely amazing. I can't complain at all. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes.
No, thank you. Thank you for really, like I said, connecting and really bringing a story that I think really that needs to be shared. I think there's so many women who suffer in silence with something similar or a story similar to what you expressed. But before we get into your story, I always like to start off just getting to know Qwanetta. Who's Qwanetta, the person? What does she do when she has some free time for herself? What does she like to do?
Thank you, Damon. First and foremost, I just want to say this. It is such an honor to be here on your platform and to share this platform with you. It is an honor, and I am so grateful, and I do not take it lightly. First and foremost, who is Qwanetta Richardson? Qwanetta Richardson, first and foremost, is a die-hard fan of Christ. Damon and the audience that's here, I have been through so many different trials and tribulations and dark places and have experienced so much trauma, but it was by the grace of God to who the woman that I have become today. And I'm just going to mention it, the chick that conquered. But not only am I a diehard fan of Christ, the woman of who I am today, but I am an intentional woman. I'm a woman that enjoys life and enjoys life to the fullest and all that life has to offer me. And so with that said, I love life. I love laughter. I love joy. So I'm a woman with passion and just love people and just love. What do I do during my free time? I'm so glad that you kind of emphasized that because in the past, I didn't enjoy my free time, but Damon, I love chasing waterfalls.
Okay. Okay.
Love chasing waterfalls. This is what I do in my free time. I love waterfalls. I love nature. I love just a peaceful atmosphere. And really quick, why I love waterfalls is because when I go to that scene, when I go to that scenery, that atmosphere, I love all of the mountains and how it's just significantly and naturally created. And I get to see the water go through the rocks and But I love waterfalls. I like nature, scenic natures. And I love to laugh during my free time. So whether that's going to a comedy show, surrounding myself with people that are of joy, I just like to laugh out loud and just enjoy myself. So
I
that's who
love it.
Qwanetta is in my downtime.
I love that. Being able to to chase waterfalls and
Mhm.
being able to experience laughter
Yes.
and happiness in one's life is really important. And I'm curious to know, were you always that way, or has that become a thing of who Quanetta has become now? Because your story is really, I mean, just from the little bit that I read, I've gotten emotional. I've gotten all worked up. I've got mad because as a man and as a father, as a husband, like some of the things, like in my mind, it doesn't compute, and it almost to a degree brings about some rage, to be honest, because I don't know what I would do if someone were to do some of the things that you talk about, to my wife or my daughter. I just couldn't imagine. You might as well go ahead and put me away now, because something gonna happen. So I want to ask though, and I'm glad that you can smile about it now. But in all honesty, like, can you just kind of educate our audience really on your story? You know, going through your depression, dealing with the infidelity. Where did all of this really begin, or for you, like when did you realize that it had started?
Sure. I want to answer your first question as well. Have I always been into like nature and waterfalls and so on and so forth? No, I haven't.
Mm,
It wasn't until um, it wasn't until Damon when I found Christ, and I learned,
okay.
and that's when I learned what my peace is and how to connect with the Holy Spirit in a sense.
Mm,
And so once I learned what I liked and what would bring me joy and peace, and it was so phenomenal and magnificent, I just kept on going with it, and that's what keep me grounded. Is that peace and connecting with the Holy Spirit. I mean, the Holy Spirit is already in
okay.
us. Some of us, let's put it that way.
True that.
Put it that way. The great that is He. But now, to your next question, the response to that is a briefing concerning my story is that, and it kind of like jump. It's kind of like going fast forwarding a little bit to what we were going to speak of a little later, but it's okay.
Mhm.
So, Damon, let me just share this. Is that a lot of times when we go through a traumatic experience with infidelity or abuse or whatever the case may be, and there's a traumatic response to that.
Right.
Um, a lot of times it doesn't start there. It doesn't
Mm,
start when you've been cheated on, or when you've discussed, or when there is you allow somebody with narcissism in your life. A lot of
right.
times, what happens, Damon, there's something that's underlying. There's something that
Mm,
is underneath that has not been dealt with. And
right.
so when I say that, then that can take you back to your childhood. There could have
Hmm.
been some childhood hurt that has not been dealt with. There could have been something that may have happened when you were a youth, where you were bullied, and that
Mm,
hasn't been dealt with. And so by with that, then we become vulnerable. And
yeah.
so when vulnerability kicks in, what happens is we start to allow people in our lives that clearly there were red flags, but there was something about them that attracted us to them, that we felt that could um, contribute somehow to our happiness and so on and
Right.
so forth. It was something that was missing in the past that this person was able to kind of make up for, but it was a mask, it was a representative.
Yeah.
So when you're in it, it's like, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with me, it started back in my childhood.
Mm.
Uh, I don't want to, take up too much time.
No, talk. You feel free talk, because I think it's important. Um, it's therapeutic for some, and some can identify. Sometimes when you hear somebody else talking about it outside of yourself, it does help others, and really the platform is really about not only educating, but if it can empower someone to go ahead and do something to take care of themselves, to get themselves out of a situation, please, like sister, go ahead, talk about it, share it, because I think it's really important. For some people who may watch this or hear this, whether it be today or at a later date, that they really get that knowledge and know that they can do it too.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much. So yes, so for me, it started in my childhood. I grew up with my father was the one that raised me,
Mm-hmm.
and initially it was just my father and I at a very young age, and then maybe I think about 9 years old, my father met a woman, and well, let me say this before the woman comes into play. My father and I had a beautiful father-daughter relationship. I
Mm-hmm.
remember because he was my everything. He was the one that I looked up to. I remember every part of my father as when I was a child. And so my father was one, even at 9 years old, always tried to teach me what's right, what's wrong, and uh, different aspects of kind of like seeing how men are to treat women in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And so when this woman comes into the picture, couple of months later, my dad came to me and asked if it was okay for her to move with us. And I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. There's a
Right.
mother, now there's going to be like all my other friends, a mother and a daddy.
Right.
But with that said, Damon, this is where the trauma began.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this woman came in, was so wicked.
Oh, wow.
She was one that could not have children.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and my father was, with my family on my father's side was very tight, very close knit.
Right.
We was just a great, like good times family.
Right.
And so this woman that came into the picture, she didn't experience that. She hadn't experienced that with her own family. So when it came to my father and I, there was what, Damon? Envy.
Yeah.
And then the relationship
Yeah.
between the family, then there was some issues. And so then and I'm just going to be transparent, everyone, because I
Mm-hmm.
pray that somebody's heart will be touched. And so that you can try to find out what's the root cause of your trauma. But what
Mm-hmm.
happened after that, my father started stepping out of the relationship. So
Mm.
because there was some issues with them two, who was the weakest link,
Right.
physically. So it was things were done to me, things were said to me, belittled
Wow.
me, hurt me,
Wow.
caused me to go into depression and go into different routes of my life as I was growing
Yeah.
until until now my father is not the father who he used to be, the one that I looked up to, protected me and covered me.
Yeah.
And so things spiraled out of control. So let's fast forward a little bit here as we leave from 9 years old up until my teen years.
Yeah.
So we know that's when you start to wanting to date people and things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what was in my life were people who I was looking to fill a void.
Yeah.
And these voids that I wanted to be filled was something that I really needed my father to fill.
Yeah.
And so, we hear a lot of people speak of, single mothers, but we have single fathers as well.
True.
But me being the young lady that I was, I needed that void to be filled.
Yeah.
And so I started looking in the wrong places and allowing the wrong people who I thought meant me good. And it just, things just got kind of escalated. And
Mm-hmm.
it started really bad, Damon,
Mm.
from 14 years old, dating older people and end up dating a drug kingpin. And um,
Just all
it
the
was
wrong choice, all the wrong choices trying to
all the
find
wrong
that
choices.
father figure that connection that you
Absolutely.
lost, and trying to fill that
Absolutely.
void. Mm.
Absolutely. And so we're going to fast forward all the way into my adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And before the ex-husband that was committing adultery, before that, of course, there were issues before then with the
Right.
same man, but different bodies.
Right.
And was tapping into my vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept dating the same man, different body.
Yep.
And then I get with this person, which is my ex-husband, while I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
to the narcissist. So I don't know if you want me to stop here.
Hey,
To
no, because I'm going to jump in on that because I mentioned it earlier. It reminds me of a Diddy situation when we, now that the layers have started to be peeled back and different things being unveiled, he comes across, I don't, he comes across as a narcissist in the true term. And there's several different types of narcissism. If I remember correctly, it is like 7 or 8 types. But it's really all about see me. I'm here to be seen, and the people around me are to support me being seen, and everything is about me. And I want you to talk about that, like in your relationship, because that's where you were really getting ready to go. So let's just get into it. What was that like? And because just listening, growing up from a young girl to a woman, and like you said, you were just changing bodies, right? But then, was this something new? Was this the narcissism like a new layer in this new body when you got with your former spouse's best representative? Because I'm pretty sure that's who was at the door. The best representative, the general manager taking you upstairs to the suite and all that. Like, so
You
what was
better, you
just
better think.
well, so like talk about it. Like what was it? What was really going on? And was that like the shiny new toy for you that
You
really
better,
caught your attention?
yes.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. Go ahead, Qwanetta. Go. I'm gonna lead on.
So what happened was,
Okay.
uh, there were, it was, I was just in ridiculous relationships,
Hmm.
relationship after relationship. And at this point, Damon, before meeting my former spouse, now I want to highlight this to all of the women and all of the men that are here and that's going to come in on the replay or go later on. What I want to highlight to you all is that before my former spouse, I didn't know God. I didn't know a
Mm,
scripture. I heard of Jesus, I heard of God, but I didn't, and I couldn't understand the function of the Holy Spirit to save my life.
right.
And so before I met my former spouse, there was something like tugging at me to kind of start like going to church.
Hmm.
And so I started like getting on this prayer line and 6 o'clock in the morning. I was a police officer too. This was when I was a police officer.
Oh
And I
wow.
started getting on this prayer line and I was just excited. I started feeling better. And this is what I want to share though.
Hmm.
We have to be careful what we speak out of the power, out of the mouth,
Mm.
out of the power of the
Ooh,
tongue. We have to be
say it.
careful of
Say it.
what we speak out loud.
Hmm.
Because I was dating different type of people that really meant me no good. And I
Hmm.
remember one day, I remember as if it was today, I remember saying um, that speaking what type of man that I wanted. I didn't know God. I didn't pray on this thing.
Right.
I remember saying it. And I remember saying, the next man that comes to take me out on a date, I'm hoping that he has flowers and all of this stuff. So I ended up going on this date with him, and voila, he has flowers like
Hmm.
water in the face. He done drove like 30 miles with this water and these flowers. And then there were some things that I thought that it was God that sent him to me.
Mm.
Like for instance, we had grew up in the same neighborhood, but we
Okay.
never saw each other.
Okay.
And then I remember moving out maybe like 30 miles out from where I was from.
Hmm.
And anyway, he and I, when we got together, we started like comparing stories. And the story that we were comparing was I found out that we lived in the same neighborhood, but we never met. We grew
Wow.
up.
Okay.
I moved out of the neighborhood and I moved like 30 miles east, and he moved 30 miles east. Okay, it's not done. In
Mm.
the same area, the same exact area, walking distance. So I moved out of there, and then I moved back to my area in that neighborhood in a building.
Hmm.
And then we were kind of like sharing, comparing stories. So I was looking at like something. I was taking care of some paperwork for him. I want to highlight this, you all, because I want you all to understand that everything that comes to you is not of God when you speak it into the
Mm.
atmosphere.
Mm.
And um so I was handling some paperwork for him and noticed that he lived in the same building that I lived in, 4040
What?
Avenue, right above my apartment, but he moved in like 30 days after I moved out. And I'm like, what is this?
What?
This gotta be from God. This has to be from God. Now, Damon, remember
What?
I remember what I told you when I spoke out in the atmosphere.
That's right.
This man, I wanted this. And then 2 weeks before meeting him, I didn't know I was going to be looking in my husband. I didn't know I was looking in my future husband's backyard because my uncle was giving a Mother's Day cookout in his yard, and I was looking in my future husband's backyard. So quite naturally, we thinking, "Oh, this is God,"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But let me fast forward to him. So we get together and it was just like phenomenal. It's like we couldn't be separated. It was like inseparable.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Because I was so broken, I was so abused.
Yeah.
I had experienced so much pain and trauma, and I had given my heart to people that didn't deserve my heart.
Right.
This man came in, was able to sweep me up off my feet.
Yeah.
Everything that I desired in a man is what he came in for. But what I didn't know the red flags.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's fast forward just a little here. So I was a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
So he would call me initially in the beginning. He called me initially in the beginning, like around 3:30 p.m., like a tad bit before it was time for me to get off work. I mean, when I got off work. But I was thinking, he loves me. He likes me a lot. He's checking and making sure I'm getting home okay. And then now here we come with the red flags, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We would be on the phone and I would tell him, "Oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm just grocery shopping. I'm taking care of some things." And he would pop up out of nowhere.
Wow.
And then, it got to the point where it was, he was showering me with gifts. He was always on the phone with me, making sure that I was okay. Always, I love you. And sending flowers once a week. So we were going through this whole situation, this whole scenario. But what I noticed in the beginning that I totally overlooked was that the way he was with me when we were out. So if a man would look at me, there would be, what is he looking at?
Yeah.
But it wasn't directed towards me at first.
Yeah.
Now it wasn't directed towards me at first. What is he looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Or it would be, "Oh, I gotta get you some clothes that doesn't show your shape."
Your shape. Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I didn't dress out of the pocket, didn't wear anything that wasn't, decent, but I got to get you some things that don't show your shape.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would be over to his house and he had brothers. And it would be, well, what is my brother looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember I stayed over there one night and I went to the restroom and came back, just went in the bathroom, did what I needed to do and come right back real quick.
Right.
And he states, "How long you been in there?
Oh my goodness.
You doing?" And I'm like, I was just in there like for 3 minutes. So these were signs that
you totally overlooked.
I totally overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't think about women or anything like that because I was like, "Oh, this man is on me." I thought that stuff was cute.
Yeah.
I was so battered and abused and
tried. Yeah, this was all new to you. That was that brand new toy. This was all of those things, like you said, from that trauma of trying to connect with your dad still.
Yes.
And he brings you this all new shiny looking toy.
With it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like him. I'm gonna keep him.
Yeah.
He like me as much as I like him.
Right. That is, it's really odd. And like I'm sitting here listening, for someone to be, and listening from the outside, here's a woman that's a police officer. She's intelligent. She's doing her own things. And because of some of the things that the resources and the foundation that you lacked, these things just went straight over your head. And I'm curious, like, when did it hit the wall, if you will, to where you were like, oh, this is what it is. And what was that ride like? Because I'm curious to know what that ride was like to you, for you to get to that point, for you to
Mhm.
be able to open up your eyes and be like, yo, whoa, whoa, whoa. This has got to stop. This has to come to an end.
Yes. Well, initially, like I stated, I thought it was everything. I mean,
Hmm.
I felt like this man was on me, and I love it.
Right.
It wasn't until, and this is still before the marriage, it
Wow.
wasn't until things started happening. Me
Hmm.
being, with as a police officer, where I would get accused um,
Mm.
with being around my fellow officers. It
Oh.
wasn't until my whole life, Damon, was basically conformed to his style, his life, his wants, his needs, his insecurities. And so it took a long time. Let me tell you something. There was a lot of brainwashing. It took
Mm.
a long time for me to. I'm still not married to this man at this point. But
Right.
at this point, I'm thinking like, well, he loves me. I didn't want to um, do away with the relationship. But it was a horrible ride. Even
Hmm.
before we got married, it was a horrible ride. I would get accused. And Damon, I used to keep my phone on me in the house. I'm not really, one to carry my phone. My kids get on me all the time about this phone situation. Well, you need to put it in your robe. No, I'm in the
Right.
house.
Right.
So it got to the point where I would have anxiety if I didn't
Wow.
answer the phone, um, without it hanging up. It got to the point where if people were around me and men voices were around me, I could just be at a store that I would like hurry up and leave out. I just want to share these. I want to share these experiences with your audience,
Hmm.
because it doesn't end well. It doesn't.
Mm.
Um, it got to the point where I would be in the grocery store with him, and a man would just happen to look up at me, and like, why is he looking at you? Why is he staring at you like that? And then I'm like, what would you like for me to do? To put my
Right.
head down to the ground? Yes, that was the response. Yes.
Really?
Then
Really?
yes, and then I remember one specific time we were in T-Mobile,
Hmm.
and this man was old enough to be my grandfather, probably almost great grandfather. And he was just talking to us about the phone. And we get out of the T Mobile. Oh, he let me have it. But I still was crazy enough to keep moving forward in the relationship. So here's the
Because I'm blown because you this even and you're still talking about before you actually got married.
this is I think, yes, I had to think about that thing for a second. Yes, because I had to think about the location. Yeah, this is before the marriage.
Because I mean I'm blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind. I like and I don't want to fast forward. I got to fast forward. Like, what was it like then? Once you actually said I do, if these
Worse.
were the things, oh my goodness,
there
my
wasn't
goodness.
any there wasn't any physical abuse, but there
Okay.
was a lot of gaslighting.
Hmm.
there
Okay.
was a lot of there was a lot of manipulation, to the point where I just was like, I don't know if I can do this with you anymore,
Hmm.
because it got to the point where I felt, even though I wasn't trash,
Right.
it felt like I was trash, because
Mm.
here I am giving my 1,000,000% to this man. 1,000,000% didn't think of cheating, wouldn't have cheated. In fact, I loved him more than I loved myself.
That was the problem. That was
You,
part of the
you
problem too. Yeah, that was part of
I
the
loved
problem.
him more than
Hmm.
I loved myself.
Hmm.
I I treated him like a king. I worshiped the
Mm.
ground literally that he walked on. But
Yeah.
here's the problem. When not even a problem when we weren't together, when I was on my beat as a police officer, if I was with family members, I treated him even better than I did as we were stand side by side, because I
Wow.
used to say, well, I know, he don't want men looking at me, so I used to keep my head down and
Wow.
crazy stuff like that.
Hmm.
So the breaking point, I don't know if you have a question before I get to
No,
that
go.
break,
No, go ahead. No, okay, right. Go get to the breaking point. Let's keep it going.
because the breaking point don't come. It don't come until the infidelity hit. It
Mm.
doesn't come until now we're married.
So that was the new layer. Now he's got you pretty much. I don't want to say
Now
trained,
I'm
but
hooked.
But basically, he's breaking your spirit now. So this was just a new layer to add
Yeah, now
on.
I'm hooked because, but see,
Mm,
Damon, let me tell you something. It wasn't just that
mm-hmm.
of him being a narcissist, but it was, and back then I didn't know what a narcissist was. I just thought people just say the word. I didn't even know it even
Right,
existed.
right.
But it wasn't even about him being a narcissist. It wasn't even about that. I catered to his insecurity.
Insecurity. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was a very insecure man.
Mm-hmm.
So I catered to that thing. I
Mm-hmm.
fed it. I conformed as I thought that I should conform to it. So whatever his hiccups was, whatever his flaws was, whatever his insecurity was, I fed into that thing. I fed into it as made him a king over his
Mm-hmm.
insecurity. So I was kind of like enabling him myself.
Yeah.
And so I looked past his flaws and all. I said, I don't care what how would he do or what is, this and this and that. I'm still going to love my man. I'm still going to do what I need to do to make sure that he's okay.
Right.
So it was more so also catering to his insecurities. So what ended up and then I kind of figured that there was something going on with women, because I would see things like pornography in his phones and things like that. And so what I did was, Damon and everybody here, I catered to that.
Mm-hmm.
So to keep him close and to keep him from doing things that I didn't want him to do, and for my heart not to be broken, this is what I'm thinking then, not now.
Right.
We developed this thing, ladies, you all need to hear me on this now. We developed this thing on every Friday and Saturday called Club Darami. And Darami was my last name. That was his
Okay.
last name.
Okay.
And so every Friday, every Saturday, I used to get dressed in my little wigs and
Okay.
and put on my little clothes, the dancer clothes, and we used to get lit. Okay. We used
Okay.
to
Okay.
be like rock stars together in the basement on Fridays and Saturdays. I had
Okay.
my little pole in the basement and it was on.
All right. That's real though. That's real.
What we did. And
Right.
that right there, there's nothing wrong with that. If
Right.
you're with
Right.
if you're with your man and you're with your woman,
That
there's
right.
nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with that.
Right.
But what I had a feeling of what he
Mm.
liked. So I
Mm.
fed him. So I fed him again.
Right.
Because what a woman wants to do, a good woman, what we
Mm-hmm.
want to do is we want to make sure that our man want for nothing. We want
Amen
to
to that.
make sure that we are there whatever way we can possibly can, even sometimes if it downgrades us, if it's
Mm.
a deterioration unto us. And
Mm-hmm.
so these are the things that I did. I enjoyed it, but it was a challenge. And so
Right.
later on, what how did I find out that, and what was my breaking point? My
Right.
breaking point was something wasn't right. He was someone that he was my husband, so I used to shop for him and I used to do so much for him. And one day he came and picked me up with a whole different outfit, because now it's not, the patterns are changing, the consistency isn't
Oh.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me tell you, before I get to this issue here, it was hard for me to find out that this man was cheating on me, because he was not anyone that was in the streets. He never left the house or anything of that nature. So,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't any signs that he was cheating in that sense.
But that control though that he had over you though also masked and made you believe that
Yes.
it wasn't. That's the key. That
Yep.
control was really the veil that really kept you blinded. Because again, all of the things that you just talked about, and I'm just talking as a man. Look, I have a great wife, and I agree with you. My wife does everything, to keep me happy, to keep me motivated. She massages my ego and all that stuff. But
Yes, we're supposed to.
right, and look, I'm thankful for it. Look, I'm not even gonna lie. But again, growing again, I was a younger man. I did some real dumb things. I tried to take advantage of those things, and I'm just listening. Now, I don't find myself to be a narcissist. I'm stubborn because I'm by nature, so I'm more stubborn than anything else. But what you learn is you how to break down that mask, but he had you so convinced, really, by, like I said, the GM that met you at the counter and put you up in that suite and was, giving you all of these things. He really had you convinced, while his other representative was out there doing his thing,
Mhm.
and then, unbeknownst to you or surprised to you, was like, wait a minute, where did this come from? So,
Yes.
like, how did you really, switch and grip, I guess, the situation and manage it so that, because I there's a whole another story, ladies and gentlemen, to this here, that we can sit here and we can talk about this 2, 3, 4 hours. But the infidelity that came with it, like, and the type of infidelity, if
Yeah.
you want to speak on that for a
Yeah.
moment, because that, as a woman, I think that had to be really hard,
Mhm.
to really wrap your, not only your head around, but your heart around, because that had to be crushing. So you want to take a moment to talk about the infidelity and the type that you had to deal with? Mhm.
Absolutely. I'm here to be transparent, to help somebody to come out and to be healed. So I found out one night, as we were getting to the close, this is the pattern that switched. There
Mhm.
was a phone that I hated. There was a phone that I
Mhm.
hated. A year prior to me finding out what I'm getting ready to um, released to everyone. A year before, there was a cell phone, an additional cell phone that he had that I did not like.
Mhm.
And that's because I knew something wasn't right with this phone. So about a year before that, I knew something was kind of like going on, because there was now secrets to this phone.
Mhm.
But here's the crazy thing: like a month, I remembered the code to this phone. I remember him punching in that code, and I don't know how I remembered that code. But he left the house to take my son somewhere really quick, and I hurried up and ran downstairs to the basement and grabbed that phone and put the
Mhm.
code in. My God,
Mhm.
I put that code in.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
saw
Mhm.
escorts. I
Wow.
saw prostitutes.
Mm.
I saw Backpage. I saw
Wow.
Craigslist. I saw
Wow.
subscriptions that was up to like $600, $700. I saw pictures in hotel rooms with prostitutes. I saw text
Mm.
messages, and that's what I saw. And so, yeah. And so, yeah. And so when I saw that, um, I remember I was standing in my bedroom. And mind you, I had to go to my son, waiting for my former spouse to come and pick me back up to go to a winter concert for my son, because he played in the band. But Damon, this was my breaking point. This was
Mhm.
my when I saw that, it was like a forced me down to that floor.
Mm.
And I remember screaming, Lord Jesus, help me. I didn't know
Mhm.
Jesus. I didn't know
Right.
God, but it was like a peace that came
Mm.
over me. I don't understand. I understand it now, but I didn't understand it then.
Understand it then. Yeah.
Well, I felt like it was like a battered woman. I hurried up and grabbed the phone and ran in my car and called my daughter and said, be on the lookout. And
Mm.
so um, I called his mom and I said, your son
Mhm.
cheating.
Mhm.
But what happened was, by the time I made it back home, he already knew that I saw, and he had his little bedroom slippers in his hand and everything. And I just walked past him.
Mm.
But here's the thing, this is where the story of my wilderness began.
Okay.
And I say my wilderness because it was a journey that I don't wish on anybody.
Yeah. Mm.
I was a police officer. I was hurt. I felt betrayed. I felt like my life literally left my body.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I remember picking up the phone to call my uncle, and I said, I'm going to kill him. I'm
Mm.
going to kill him. And my uncle was the voice of reasoning. But from there on, he didn't come back to that house for a while.
I know that's right.
And let me take you through some of the phases that I went through when
Mm-hmm.
I found out. I cried every single day for
Right.
6 months. I
Mm.
cried at work. I had some tissue stuffed in my uniform pocket. I would be in the cruiser, dabbing my eyes, ducking
Mm.
to bathrooms. Um, so I went through this whole spiel. Now
Right.
here's the thing. His um his mother really was quite fond of me, and she had us to go to a pastor. This man prayed for 8 hours,
Wow.
literally.
Wow. 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 Wow.
I'm going to give you this breaking point though. This man prayed for us for 8 hours, but it wasn't sitting right with me. And then we got referred to another pastor. And
Mm-hmm.
this pastor basically telling me that I have to stay. I didn't know the word of God, but he's telling me you have
Mm-hmm.
to stay, this and this and this. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. I'm telling this
Mm.
man that doesn't sound right. So what I did was, we don't have enough time, so I'm not going to go through all of it. But what I ended up doing was, here's the thing. Um, well, let me say this. I did put hands on him. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
being transparent.
Okay.
Because I was hurt.
Right. That
The
that was the hurting the pain.
Yeah, the more questions I asked when I finally let him come back so we
Mm-hmm.
can speak face to face like 2 weeks later, I was hurt. And I'm asking these questions and these answers that I'm receiving because now he's being honest. And I'm like, this
Mm-hmm.
person is doing this and you're my husband and I'm doing this with you. Are you crazy? And so I did
Yeah.
put hands.
Okay.
And so um after that, I decided, and I need somebody to catch this. I decided to stay. I decided to stay. We went through counseling. Counseling didn't
Mm-hmm.
work.
I was gonna say you scratch that. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Counseling didn't work.
Right.
Um, even went through a financial counseling because he was messing up with his portion of the bills. Because what is he doing? He's
Well,
feeding
well,
his habit to
I
these
mean,
prostitutes.
we talking about $600-700 a pop with escort service. I mean, yeah, you money
It was
go.
more, man. It was more. That's a subscription. We ain't
My
even got to
God.
where he's
Well,
paying
we ain't
out of.
talking about the payment, right? We ain't talking about out of
We
pocket
ain't talking
fees.
about
Gotcha.
out of pocket payments, and you got to pay for the rooms
Got
and
it.
stuff. We ain't talking
Jesus,
about that. So
criminal.
you probably talking about, I don't know, like $2,000 a month.
$2,000. Yeah, easy, easy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is what I said. I said I'm going to cross my T's, dot my I's, and if I leave, I don't want it to be anything that I wish I could have or should have done.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed for 6 months. There was nothing sexual involved because I didn't trust him.
Right.
But that was it. So here's the breaking point. Before all of this stuff happened, it was like God was tugging at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to my sergeant at work, and I remember asking my sergeant, and this is before I knew anything. I said, "Can I have Sundays off?" And I said, because I think I want to start going to church.
Mm-hmm. That
This is
calling.
before I knew anything now.
That
And so
calling.
she said, well, it's going to take about 3 months because we still got the cadets that's in the academy. And so, it's going to take about 3 months. I said, okay, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went into this chapel on the police department one day. And I had already been through this crazy pastor that told me that I needed to stay. And I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. But I wanted to do the right thing.
Right.
So I went before roll call. Roll call was 0700 hours. I went into this chapel and I got on my knees.
Mm-hmm.
And I might get emotional, everyone, because God
Mm-hmm.
is so good.
That's right.
I went to this chapel and I got on my knees. And I remember saying, Lord, I don't know if you really exist. I don't know if you do exist, if you can hear me,
Mm.
and if you can even speak back. I remember now,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm hurting and I feel like I'm dying.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to stay in this marriage, I will stay. If you want me to go, I will go. But if you can hear me, if you are real, and if you speak back, I need you to speak to me in a way that I understand, that I won't miss it.
Mm.
I get up off my knees And the sergeant, no, before I even get out of the chapel's door, there's a message that comes on my computer. I mean, on
Mhm.
my phone. And it says, today is your new day, is a new day for you. Your new life just began. I'm like, wait a minute now. Wait a
Mhm.
minute. So I get out of the chapel. And then the sergeant that I asked, like a week before that, about me getting off on Sundays, she said,
Your request came through.
Officer Darami, come to the sergeant's office. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
like, I don't get in trouble, because we used to get in
Mhm.
trouble all the time, police department.
Mhm.
But so I'm like, I ain't did nothing lately. So
Mhm.
I'm like panicking. So I get to the sergeant's office and she says, Officer Darami, do you still need Sundays off? I said,
Mhm.
yes, ma'am. She said, it starts this week.
There you go.
I said, this week? We just
Mhm.
talked about this last week. She said,
Mhm.
this Sunday it starts. So I come out of the sergeant's office and I said, okay, God, if this is you,
Mhm.
how do I leave this man?
Mhm.
And how do I do it in a way that keeps him from reeling me back in?
That's right.
My former spouse called me 30 seconds later,
Mm.
and he had this thing for me to trust him. And what he did for me to trust him, he was an entrepreneur and he was a contractor. So he would send me pictures of the before job and the after job.
Mhm.
And so to let me know he was there, it's done, it's finished, baby, I'm being faithful. So this was the last time he had to do that. He called me and he said, babe, did you get the picture? I said, I did. I said, but you don't have to send me those pictures anymore. He said, oh, you trust me now? I said, not even a little
A
bit.
little bit. Mhm.
And he did it for me. He said, well, do you really want to be with somebody for the rest of your life that you don't trust? I said,
Nope.
no. He said, well, I guess I need to get my things and move out then. I said, I guess you do.
And look here. That's the
And
power. That's the power of the
that,
words. That.
that was within 5 to 7 minutes.
Mhm.
And I'm like, wait a minute now.
But you spun and you broke yourself down. You humbled yourself, and you asked for that message. You opened up your heart.
I
To
did.
God. The place on not only on your heart but on your soul and your spirit on what you need to do moving forward. And
I
and
did.
that's powerful. I think people don't understand that enough, or some of us don't believe that it's possible. And
Yeah.
you just spoke, like we have been talking about all day. The power, be mindful of the power of the words that come out of your mouth. You
Yes.
got to be ready for what's going to come. Sometimes you spoke about the good, the bad, and everything in between. And
Yes.
like we started out the conversation, you've risen, like a phoenix from the ashes, if you will. And you started this journey, the chick that conquered, working with others in the community to really better themselves. And we're coming towards the back end, but I do want to ask, like, in your experience, right? And
Yeah.
as you've really begun digging in and really growing
Mhm.
yourself and really assisting others, what are some of the biggest challenges that
Mhm.
women face when they're
Mhm.
trying to really rebuild their lives
Mhm.
after being in a toxic relationship similar to yours? And what do you do, and what ways do you help them overcome those obstacles?
Yes, sir. So some of the biggest challenges with my sisters is them believing that it won't always be like this.
Mm, mm,
Them believing that they won't always be hurt or scarred or scorned or broken. Some of them is also them buckling down and giving God a try, giving it all to God, and be willing and vulnerable to God. I keep bringing God in here because that was my antidote. He was my antidote. I didn't know
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
God. And then another challenge that I find is that they believe that they would never be strong enough to become the chick that conquered.
mm, Very interesting. Interesting.
Um, and how do I help them? How do I help them? I have a strategy.
Okay.
My strategy is there's four parts to this. It's rewind, research, repurpose, and rebrand.
Okay.
So what does that mean? So those that I help, I have to go back, as you and I had spoken of, Damon, um, earlier. I have to go back to them before the incident of infidelity occurred. So
Right.
I have to rewind that thing back to them, because there is, if when you have when you have a response, as I did, as of isolation, and I didn't date for 6 years, and
Mm.
when you have a response, there's something underlying, there's
Right.
underlying for that. So I have to rewind and go back to that woman, to that point where that woman was suffering severely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to go back to that. Sometimes I have to go back to that child to find out, because it didn't start
Right.
here. I
Right.
have to go back, to the basics, to the foundation, to the root of the possible trauma before the infidelity occurred. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then once I get back to that rewind, now we got to investigate. There's a research,
Right.
because what in law enforcement, what happens is, what happens when we need to get an investigation, and get to the bottom of it. We have to connect the dots. So we
Right.
have to keep winding the tape back to not miss anything, so that we can come out and it be a success of what we're doing. So I have to research these women. Because I can't deal with the woman that's already right there
Okay.
before.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I
Yep.
have to rewind and go back, and then repurpose them. What does repurpose them mean? What their current purpose is not their purpose in the future.
That's right.
Sometimes, women are living day to day. Sometimes women don't believe or have a purpose anymore. Their light has been dimmed. So now I got to encourage you, motivate you. I have to now, develop a strategy that's going to conform to you and your journey. So now I got to repurpose you. I
Mm.
gotta repurpose you. I gotta what is give you a help you to receive, get a new purpose in life, get a new
Right.
purpose in your outlook. And then so now we go into the rebranding.
Mm.
Everybody is a brand.
That's
You're
right.
a brand, Damon. Your wife is a brand.
That's right.
Everybody is a brand. Tanika is a brand. Beth is a brand. So now when we go into branding, because when we go to the grocery store, we're looking for what? Some of us are looking for a specific
A
type of brand.
specific. That's right. Yep.
You get what I'm saying? Some of us is
Mm-hmm.
looking for, Chef Boyardee. Some of us
Mm.
are looking for, Skippy's peanut butter. So we know
Right.
exactly. Now I gotta rebrand you. I have to rebrand you for you to become that chick that conquered, right? And so how do I
Mm.
rebrand you? After I done rewind it back to your issues, and I done researched you and repurposed you, now I'm gonna
Brand,
rebrand you
brand
for
new.
you to be a chick that conquer, for you to be a success. After I rebrand you, now we're going to come up with a strategy to maintain that thing.
Mm.
You
Love it.
have to, it has to be maintained, because just because now you don't conquer doesn't mean is oversaid
It's
and done.
over.
Because what
That's right.
does the devil do? He comes to steal, kill, and
Mm.
destroy. And so the devil that came
Facts.
to steal and steal and destroy your purpose and what God has for you, and to destroy what you desire, and what your hopes and your dreams. Now I gotta help you to maintain that thing, so nothing can come
Mm.
back in and cut in on you. So that's
That's
what I
right.
do. But it's allocated to, it's specific, because everybody's journey is
The journey is
different.
different. Mm-hmm. Listen here, sis. I'm a huge fan. And I your story. There's so much to this that we can sit here and we can break this down into parts. And I'm going to say this. Look, you're welcome to come back. We can break this down even further. We can definitely do this again, because I really think what you're doing is really it jives and aligns with everything that Two Mics Up is all about. You're not only educating others, but you're doing something that's definitely and powerful and empowering to others, so that they can live a positive and impactful life on the other side. And I think that is the most important thing. And that's, I hope, is the biggest takeaway. I see some folks, in the audience, Reflex Nice Up, thanks for joining us. Marcia, thanks for joining us. I see Crystal and Louise. Thank you all for joining us today. And everyone else, who's watching. I hope that, you watch this on the replay and play this back and really listen to, what Qwanetta, she's the chick that conquered, and if you all know someone that needs some assistance, may have been through some dark times, some troubling times, here is a resource for you. Use the resource, people. And when I say use it, make that phone call, inquire, step outside your box, step outside of that field, step outside if you're dealing with a person. I'm not gonna call him Diddy, but AKA Diddy, the GM that's putting on the best face, that's really got you blinded to really what's going on around you. Take a moment, reach out to Qwanetta. And before we go, Qwanetta, I want to allow you to take a moment to, share your social media, with our audience. We're going to make sure that we have it in the show notes and in the bio. But I want to give you a moment to go ahead and share that with those who are watching right now.
Thank you so much, Damon. So I can be reached on, I believe it's all social media platforms. So you can reach me on Instagram at The Chick That Conquered. You can reach me on TikTok at The Chick That Conquered. You can also reach me at LinkedIn by Qwanetta Richardson. I'm not sure if it's at The Chick That Conquered, but I believe it's Qwanetta Richardson, and Facebook at The Chick That Conquered. Now, I really want to explain this about Facebook. I have a personal page, Qwanetta Richardson. I also have an official page, but in order for you to land on my official page, you have to request my friendship on the Qwanetta Richardson page. I don't know why Facebook have it like that, but you have to request me. My personal page is Qwanetta Richardson, and then I'll invite you to my official page. And if I may, Damon, can I let them in on my documentary? So
Please.
now we have a life story documentary that is out. Chapter 1 has already been released. My team and I, we're working on chapter 2 to get that out. It's called Qwanetta Richardson, The Chick That Conquered Chapters. So if you want to know more of how I became this woman, and we get into the details of where I was and how I ended up to this woman, is way more than just the infidelity. There's so much more, including witchcraft. How I became this woman. Please tune in on the YouTube channel to watch The Chick That Conquered. And we're putting out a chapter every week. And so I just thank you all so much.
Look, well, we're going to definitely check it out. We're going to support it. Can't wait to see what else you bring to the table. It's been a wonderful conversation, Qwanetta. I thank you for taking time out. And like, seriously, we can talk. And we can I got some other ideas that we can talk about just from reading your stuff. We can do this again another time. You're part of the family, so you're always welcome to come back and share your story. Oh, our pleasure, and it's really an honor. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Another Two Mics Up Business Corner. Man, this was a special edition. Friday, late Friday. I usually jump on Wednesday, but Qwanetta, I just felt moved and empowered by her story, and I just wanted to go ahead and share it. So thank you all. Look, we in a recess here, Two Mics Up, but you can follow us across social media: IG, Facebook, Twitter, X at Two Mics Up. If you're here watching this on YouTube and you haven't done it yet, I don't know what your problem is, but you go down there, you go ahead, subscribe, you hit that bell before you leave today so that you can be notified from us, from all the new content that we're bringing you. And got a surprise. You guys are actually going to be the first to hear it. Coming out with my own channel on the network. So I'm looking for content creators. I'm looking for YouTubers who want to stream their show across 45 countries. We have over 100 million viewable subscribers. Amazon, Roku TV. If you want to know more, hit me up. Let's talk. I'm looking, it has to be all positive though. I'm looking for positive content, positive creators, something where you can leave your kids in the room and you can walk away. No sex, no violence, no nothing. So hit me up. Like I said, season 7 is coming back. Well, we're in between. I don't know. August, September. Haven't decided yet. Season 7. Mogul TV Global Network. #1 network for positive TV programming. And look, like we do at the end of every show, I'm gonna leave you with two things and a plus. May you all stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.
007.